We're live. Good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for May 4th, 2 p.m. session. The following cases will be discussed. 55137BZ, 23302 Northern Boulevard, Queens. 33478BZ, 23320 Northern Boulevard, Queens. 7204BZ, 14154 Northern Boulevard, Queens. And 5106BZ, 18802 Union Turnpike. This is a review session, so there will be no public testimony. So the first item is 55137, 23302 Northern Boulevard, Queens. Ow. Somebody called in.
So this one, oops, I just lost it. Sorry. This one had originally been scheduled to be heard, it's a new case, scheduled to be heard on April 7th, and the hearing was postponed until today. I do think, yeah, and this was the one where we, on May 4th, sorry, no, we gave proof of service of the initial application. So I'm sorry, we sent revised proof of service, is that right, to them?
Proof of notice. Proof of notice.
Proof of notice, yeah. So we have
Notice
proof,
of hearing.
we have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials for the May 4th and 5th teleconference. The community board heard this in tandem with the adjacent site to be heard next and recommends conditional approval. They said a motion was made to approve the applications with the following conditions: signs posted in the businesses explaining the street parking rules, no parking on sidewalks, and all prior conditions remain. And then the vote passed unanimously. My comments are the statement of facts on page 1 has a very confused history of this case. With respect to the last extension of term, renewal, and expiration dates, there's just a pile of different ones. Someone needs to mute because there's all this clicking. So please mute everybody who, yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, statement of facts, page 1 with a confused history. There's a 6/4/13 and a 7/15/22, or a 7/24/18 and a 7/24/19, or a 7/25/19. It's just a mess. And there's also a missing sentence on page 3 starting with the word now, and another messy sentence concerning time starting with July 25th, 2019. In fact, the sequence of events is just a general mess, as I've said before. And I have to say these errors are the clear result of zero proofreading, which is not acceptable for submission to this agency. We should not be reading something that makes no sense. You have to review your own applications before you submit to us. It's actually fairly insulting that we receive things that are not proofread. There is no explanation for the July 2019 expiration in light of the July 2022 extension. They seem to be running simultaneously. I don't understand how you're assuming there's an extension to 2022 if there's a July 2019 expiration. And no mention that the 2018 approval was to amend the use to automobile sales and was given a short leash of 1 year to show that the site had been improved in compliance with the long list of conditions. It's just sort of this passing sentence about the work that was supposed to be done in the year. The statement of facts wanders around confusingly. At first, I understand that the site was formerly for automotive repairs and then amended to allow sales, then back to auto repairs, then amended, then there's a showroom. I don't know what the proposed use is or the current use, because this is an operating site, or at least part of it's an operating site. Yeah, so I'd like to know, is the proposal different from what was approved in 2018? Is this an extension request or an amendment? And then the 29 pages of BSA resolutions that were submitted were submitted out of chronological order. So I suppose it's the board who's expected to figure this all out instead of the applicant, which is of course not the case. The applicant cannot submit just a pile of resolutions and have us figure it out. And it isn't as if the chronology is difficult to figure out. It's all very neatly stated in the 2018 resolution. So how could the applicant get it to be such a mess? There's also no breakdown of how or whether the repairs that have occurred comply with the conditions or the state of completion of those repairs. There was a condition of approval that a whole bunch of things had to be done. So why isn't there a list of the things that had to be done and an indication of what percentage of each one is done and how much more needs to be done? And then the plans, or let's say, and then the plans, Z100 includes a copy of the 2013 BSA resolution. Why would it do that? What's 2013 got to do with anything? And then the August 26, 2019 statement of facts was never updated to reflect the changed field conditions and describes an existing tenant and dotted lines and swing gates on drawing Z100 that aren't on the drawings, and a reduction in parking spaces that isn't occurring. The statement of facts goes on a bit about this being a separate zoning lot from its neighbor and companion case adjacent. Why is there an insistence on being treated as a separate zoning lot when the applications are filed together and heard together at the community board? The 2018 submission required that the adjacent lot be ghosted in to show its relationship to the subject lot. Obviously, the maneuver zone for showroom cars is to access the adjacent lot, not the subject building that has no garage doors on the side. So it's clear they're operating together. I just don't understand this insistence on keeping them separate, except to confuse everybody. Compliance photos that I believe were taken by our project manager, Ted Ricketts, are in the public folder, show that the site appears to be in the process of being improved with new concrete paving being poured, new fencing, and the building in good shape with new fenestration. The compliance photos probably predate the 12/28/19 photos provided by the applicant that show concrete paving completed and the site occupied plus a small triangle of planting. We do have a conditional letter of no objection from fire department requiring a fire department permit for motor vehicle repair shop. And I note that Chase Vine also looked through the application, and I see Ted's hand up. He noted there's razor wire on the fence that needs to be removed, and the applicant failed to provide all the resolutions for the site and referenced in board history, also noting the incorrect references. All the resolutions for the site are required to draft the resolution and need to be provided, and they all need to be referred to in the board history. The applicant should examine their submission and provide a complete history. That's a note from Chase. There's also an observation by Chase Vine that the raised planter has 0 planting on it, that there's a black oil drum outside of the building. The southern corner planting area is not in-ground planting and concerned about survival, inconsistent surfacing materials on the lot, and the parking space numbering, some is numbered, some is not. We have counsel review the applications so that they can be sure the applications are complete by the time we come to a decision. So I always rely on their notes, and I'm going to just recognize Ted Ricketts, whose hand is up.
Sorry, Chair. All right, so the site was visited in March. That was March 5th of this year. Yes, that was fairly recent, right before we shut down, unfortunately. When I was there was no signage. There was the site was closed off, so I could not access the rear. I really wanted to see the rear of the site, but there was too much caution tape and things of that nature, so I did not pursue to go actually any further into the site. So those are just from sidewalk level. But that was it. As far as the planter, yes, there was no planting. There were some issues with the fence in the rear. I believe there's a fence from the Parks Department in the rear, as well as a fence that the applicant put up as well. So I think there was 2 different looking fences at the time I visited. Don't know if they've changed that, but that was the last, that was a March visit. So that was the first week of March.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the commissioners. Commissioner Shanda. Oops, can't unmute her. Unmute. It's not working. There we go. Thanks.
Okay. So as you stated, the writing was very haphazard and confusing. And given that there are two sets of sites, though under two ownership and by DOB determination considered two separate zoning lot, I'll accept that. However, the documents need to be very clear in stating that history and separating that out right from the start. And the history part of this application needs to be extremely clear. And they were, as you pointed out, they were incorrect information. I think they have incorrectly stated the BZ from the abutting they have used the BZ number from the abutting lot in certain areas, and they have incorrectly stated the years of approval. I think when we had last heard this application, we had a lot of concerns about how this site was going to operate and function independently, and how it also needed to have adequate maneuverability space. So we were very particular about how the parking was going to be laid out, and the location of each one of those uses were very carefully drawn out. And there were a lot of other improvements we had asked. So what I did not see and I was expecting to see was somewhat like a compliance chart, kind of laying out all the conditions that were outlined in 2018, and going through each one of them, the improvements that have been made, underway, or will be done by such a certain time frame. And all the other asks that we had made, we had asked and clarified. The document does not state clearly that they are continuing to abide by those. So it was a lot of like us having to do the guesswork, and I don't think that's what a statement is.
Great. Okay. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I agree that the statement was confusing, and I want to focus attention on page 7, the automotive repair and sales operations. These paragraphs on the parking spaces, I found very confusing. The first statement says that there's 12 spaces for cars awaiting service on the east side of the site and 20 showroom spaces, which adds up to 32 possible spaces. However, a little further down in the next paragraph, it says there'll be a total of 22 parking spaces, 4 for car repair, 16 for auto sales, and 2 for showroom car repair. And then the plans actually validate the last paragraph because there are 22 spaces. So they need to read that and clarify that.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Sheta?
Thank you, Chair. I agree that the statement of facts was kind of like really very confusing. I might be confused as well, because my understanding is that this case was before us back in July 2018. And we granted something. We granted the variance as far as I understand. So it's here for an extension of term. Is that right?
No, not really. So what happened is there was a previous variance granted, and my understanding is it had a term till 2022, so they didn't need to come back. But they came back to amend the application in 2018, and then we found all kinds of problems with the application.
Yes.
So we said, we'll let you amend to include auto sales.
Yes.
But your site's a mess, and
Yes.
everything's a mess. So because it's been so badly managed, we're going to put you on a short leash.
Which is a year.
Of a year. So this is an example of us putting them on a short leash. Sometimes we do that. We say, we can't give them a 10-year term. We don't know that they're ever going to do the work, right? And sometimes they can't do the work unless they have permits. So they have to have an approval in order to get the building permit, but then they have to come back to us in a year. So that's what this situation.
That's my understanding is we granted, but just for 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that right now they are here. They are here for an extension, correct?
Well, not exactly. They're here. Yeah. So it's not exactly an extension. They're here to prove to us that they did the work, because this was the conditional approval for 1 year. And
Yes.
if we agree that they satisfied all the conditions, then we could decide that to let them go ahead with a term that's a longer term, like a 10-year term.
Yes, if they prove to us that they are in compliance, that would support their position to ask for a longer term, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So technically, this case is not for an amendment anymore. It's for an extension.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
Okay, so they need to fix that in the, or maybe we need to fix that in our description for the case. But you said they didn't proofread. I would say they did probably something that's substantially more even ridiculous than that. That during the community board hearing, the community board did ask them to make sure that they've done certain things. For example, put a sign for no parking. If I'm the applicant and I went to the community board and they said, make sure you drink your milk in the morning before you go to the BSA in order for you to get the extension. The first thing I would do at the day I'm going to the board is to get the empty cup with some milk in it and say, look, I did drink my milk. But with this application, what they did is they submitted a photo with a sign, and I did look at the sign. I wasn't able even to read what the sign says. So here we go. If you've been asked to provide evidence that you're gonna put a sign for your customers not to park somewhere, and you take a picture for this sign, I'm alphabetic to make that photo clear for whomever you're submitting to be able to look at it and read it. It didn't happen. So this is one thing. Community board did ask them to look into finding out about some information regarding the alleyway between the two properties. I'm not sure, there was no mention in the statement of fact whether this is done or not. So this is the other thing. The date for the previous grant back in July 2018, it's not July 25, it's July 24th.
Yeah.
So that need to be corrected. The other thing is there is a set of drawings. It's called certified resolution, and it's dated June 28th, 2019. And I'm not sure what is that. It's what is this set representing? What I know so far is that previously approved 2018 drawings that, by the way, were submitted on the hearing day. We second called this case on July 24th, 2018, and we asked them to submit to us a new set of drawings, and they did, and that's how we granted it. From my understanding, this is the only previously approved set that represent basis for that current application for now, at least for the extension of term that's before us. So what is this set that's dated 11/27 to 2019, and it's like I said, it's called certified resolution. I'm not sure what is that. And the DOB, when you look at the DOB approved set that they submitted to us, again, I went back to the 2018 case, the one that we approved in July 20, and I recall that the location of the trash enclosure was one of the issues because of which we second called this case. Looking at the DOB approved set, I wasn't able to locate the trash enclosure on it. Should it be there, or it was just drop. Photo 1 and the photos that were submitted lastly. If you look at photo 1 and 2, you can see some kind of debris in the back. I'm not sure what is the status today. Probably they cleaned, but if they did, they will need to submit to us new photos.
Can you just go back for a second? I'm trying to understand what you mean by the certified plans. There's a set of drawings that were called the previously approved plans that are stamped July 25th, 2018. That say received Board of Standards and Appeals July 25th, 2018. And the title block date is July 24th, 2018. That's not
Okay,
the one you mean, right? That's the right set. That's the set that was approved the last time and that they should be relying on. No, Commissioner Chandra is shaking her head, so.
Yeah, I think the one that has a stamp of 28, somehow I think that also confused me because the plan that is submitted. Oh, hold on. I actually did not look. I take back. No, I take back.
Okay, so this is in the initial application folder.
Right. Yeah.
We have previously approved plans. We have what I believe are this is the confusing set, the proposed plans.
Yeah.
That are submitted on 8/26/19, and they have a title block date of 6/29/18, which of course makes it more confusing because they're earlier than the approved set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Commissioner
that's-
is referring
I
to.
believe I got confused because, like you said, Chair, the resolution was stick to the proposed. So it sounds like certified resolution is a stamp that's coming with the resolution image itself. It's
Yeah.
not associated with the drawing.
Oh, right.
But
It's the wrong resolution, though. It's a resolution from 2013. I don't understand that at all. Like, why is that on a set of drawings for today? Makes
Yeah,
no
because
sense.
I believe they whoever prepared these drawings didn't look at them and didn't review them, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's obvious, yeah. But even the last set of drawings, the last set of drawings, the approved set of drawings showed the 2013 resolution, but that set of drawings is from 2018, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mess. Basically, we're spending a lot of time looking at an application we shouldn't be looking at because it's a complete mess and we should have just turned it right back around to say to the applicant, do over.
But
So
shouldn't we see the location for the trash enclosure on this set, the DOB approved set?
You mean the proposed plans? Yeah, I thought the trash enclosure is underneath the planter. It's underneath the planter. It's shown.
And the DOB approved plan, Commissioner Sheta is right. The DOB approved plan, at least the one that says DOB approved plan dated 11/27/2018,
Yes.
does not show the trash enclosure. It should be, in this case, the Northern Boulevard is pointing upward, so it's a little bit disorienting. But
It should be all top left hand
right,
side.
so it should be right next to the. It
Sign.
should be right next to the sign.
Yes.
Right,
And
but but that's a different thing. It's not on the DOB approved plans, whether you need a permit to install the trash enclosure, I don't know, but it's true that it's not there. But it's on our approved drawings, right? It should be there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Okay, understood. It's not that, we're not regulating the DOB approved drawings. We're regulating our drawings and we want to see the stuff installed according to the approval.
And
Right.
also in terms of the parking layout that we have approved is not correctly reflected in the DOB approved plan. Specifically the parking, there were 3 parking spaces that were parallel to the building wall, the rear building wall. And that's not reflected in either. Oops, excuse me.
No, they're parallel.
Uh,
So you have parking space number 1 through 4 that's perpendicular to the rear lot
Right.
line.
And
And-
then there is this 1, 2, 3 that is parallel to the building.
Right, and you're not seeing that on the, oh, it's not shown on the drawing, is that right? I can't even tell where it is. Upside down at the back, right, oh, it's not shown. You know why? This is, why? I don't know. Good point. Not there, not, I don't understand. It's all a mess. Okay, now that we know it's a mess, I think we're up to Commissioner Shabet. I'm gonna mute you so we don't hear your phone. Okay, Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. Let's see. So on the bright side, it was good to hear that Mr. Euler believed that they were complying with many of the conditions that were put down, that were placed. That was nice to see. And I think that's all the positive I have for this application. I don't want to be repetitive. I think that this application wasn't ready to be before the board. I don't know if it would have become ready. I don't know if this was necessary for it to become ready for each of these commissioners to let them know that this is so crypto at this point that it was hard to decipher. But I don't really think we should spend, as a board, I don't think we should spend much time on this because not much time was spent on it when it was prepared to sent to us.
That's a good point. Yes, good point. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments from commissioners or project managers? Anybody? Okay. Okay, next one.
Item number 2334778BZ, 23320 Northern Boulevard, Queens. No testimony, please.
Right. Okay. So we do have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials for the May 4th, 5th teleconference. Community board heard this in tandem with the previously heard site and recommends conditional approval. And I'll just read that again because the conditions are blended together. A motion was made to approve the applications with the following conditions: signs posted in the businesses explaining the street parking rules, no parking on sidewalks, and all prior conditions remain. A vote was taken, which passed unanimously. I'd like to say on this one, given the complex history of uses and amendments on the site, the applicant should clarify what the actual uses are. I believe they are auto sales and repairs based on the signs on the front of the building, but that's really the applicant supposed to be doing that. I'm not supposed to be trying to figure it out based on forensics, right? Z100 shows the 2000 BSA resolution when this was last approved in 2018, more floppy work on the part of this applicant. As with the prior case, which the notes of which should be kind of replicated here, right? The statement of facts describes items that it represents as amendments to the 2018 approval, but I don't see that these are new. So to Commissioner Sheta's earlier point, this is more likely a request to extend the term, not a request to amend, unless it's a request to amend. And then they should tell us that it's a request to amend and what's different from the last application. You know, it's completely confusing. So the statement of facts was not updated since its submission in August 2019 to reflect the current status of site work. And there's no discussion of the progress of work relative to the conditions on the 2018 resolution. I think the statement of facts is describing the wrong site reference, the refuse storage on what's described as the lower right corner of the property next to the freestanding sign and under the raised planter. That's obviously a reference to the adjacent site. So if this applicant can't figure out what's going on which site, why should we? And why should we be treating these as separate applications? I still don't understand that because the applicant can't figure out which one goes where. The statement of facts also confusingly refers to pre-2018 conditions. It isn't clear about which, quote, previous BSA application it refers. There are 18 open ECB violations and $3,000 in fines owed that need to be paid before we decide on this. We have a conditional letter of no objection from the fire department requiring a permit for motor vehicle repair shop. And then to pick up on Chase Fine's, our deputy counsel's comments, the applicant needs to go back through and confirm they have submitted all the resolutions for a complete site history. Why did the plans and statement of fact refer to proposed parking spaces when such were proposed on the prior approved plans? There's a selective numbering of parking spaces. Some are numbered, some aren't. And the plans are dated the same as the, quote, previously approved plans. And so it's just continuing the story of the mess. Okay, so Commissioner Shanda.
So similar comments from the previous one. I would also like the applicant to clarify exactly, since community board heard the issues in both the cases in tandem, I want the applicant to clarify which of those conditions specifically apply to which of the two sites. Specifically, as I was reading it, I thought the conditions with regard to the alleyway and parking was more related to the site that we are reviewing now, which is 23320, and not the interior lot, since that is still not fully built and fully ready and occupied, I think. At least that wasn't clear from the statement. So I think that needs to be clarified. The statement of fact has two sets of numbers with regards to the ECB violation, and it's written as 11/17. So I don't know if that's the number or if that's the year or the month. It wasn't clear to me. So there's definitely inconsistency. Again, another set of inconsistency in the statement of fact.
Okay.
I won't get into the detail because I think you have picked up on the issues, the inconsistency issues, and they need to provide a similar compliance chart for this also and show where all things they are missing, what all they have met, what all things need to be done, and the time frame of the completion.
Right. Okay, fair.
Yeah, and if just one thing though, if this is an extension of term for this case, then they're amending, they may be responsible for another fee for an amendment. But I think we'll figure it out.
We actually don't know if they're amending because it's such a mess that they basically, what it seems like, they used all the old materials. They threw in some sentences in the old materials and they submitted. So they didn't even read the whole thing, and they didn't even say, oh, wait a minute, let me think about this. This is happening in the future, not in the past, etc. So that's why we're reading this mess.
Okay.
I'm trying to unmute Commissioner Otley Brown. There we go.
Yeah, the previous time this case had come around, or the first time that it came around for us, I had pointed out that there were cars that were parked on 234th Street that appeared to be awaiting service for either the businesses located on this subject site, or it could have been part of the dealership, but that it needed to be cleared away. Whereupon they told us that it had nothing to do with them, but I need them to now take another look because the pictures are showing that there are many cars parked in the bed of 234th Street, and we need to know that it does not belong to the subject property's businesses. So they need to provide proof of either a clean street with no cars parked on it, or proof that the cars that are parked there are not for their business.
I remember this discussion a lot because it's such an obvious city granted parking spot, basically.
Right.
Business. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Okay, Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I believe regarding the description, the statement of facts is clear with that respect. It says the application seeks to extend the term. I'm talking about the 220 Northern Boulevard. It says the application seeks to extend the term for the variance. even the previous case did say that. So I believe the description probably incorrectly characterized by us in our description. So and it need to be fixed. It's not just an extension of time. The other issue that Commissioner Chanda talked about is the 7-Eleven issue. Usually when people write numbers, they write them, they spell them out, and they tend to put them between parentheses and write them as numerics. So I believe it's just a typo mistake. It's they describe the number as 11 and they put 17. I believe it's a mistake, but it's another clear evidence that this was written and wasn't read, which is, like the chair said before, it's insulting. If somebody like submit to me something that he just wrote and he just get rid of it and throw it to me to struggle with it, that's not good. That doesn't help. I would say the least I would say that doesn't help the case.
Right. Okay. I just want to say though, our headings say it's an extension of term. They don't
Right.
say amendment, right? The reason that we keep talking about an amendment is that the statement of facts wanders around and uses the word amendment. You know, we propose to have this use or propose to have this many parking spaces. So is it an extension or is it an amendment or both? Right? I think that's where the confusion is. So.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna unmute Commissioner Shabeta if I can. There we go.
To your last point, Chair, but that shouldn't be up to us to decipher. The applicant should have a concise argument for what he wants to prove in his case and what he wants to ask for. And that should be submitted to us, whether it be in one application or two, which is something that I think they should go back to the drawing board, figure out clearly what it is that they want to do, and what's the best way to get to that. And it shouldn't be the five of us drawing up their application for them.
Mhm. Okay, and so what I would like to suggest of this applicant for both this case and the prior one is that during the hearing, we not have a big discussion. They just resubmit the materials properly, because I don't want to go back and forth about what's really going on. Why don't we know that from what we're reading and looking at? So rather than extend the hearing, we've already spent 15 minutes or 20, something like that on this case, or maybe even longer. And so I don't think we should spend any more time going back and forth about a really badly prepared application. And I think the main words from the applicant should be, "I'm sorry, and I'll never do it again."
I think that based on what we have before us and what we said in review, it would be wise to request that this be adjourned to the applicant, because I don't really think there's anything he can cure by speaking about it today.
Right, fair. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next
Anything-
item. Oh,
Anything
sorry.
else from anybody? I just want to wrap that up with the commissioners. Everybody okay to move on?
Sorry.
Everyone nodding their head in agreement. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next.
7204BZ, 14154 Northern Boulevard, Queens. This is an extension of term.
And this again is a review session, so no one should be calling in during the review session. We will move to the hearing portion shortly. Okay, we do have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials for the May 4th and 5th teleconference. The community board recommends approval with one abstention. The site seems to be in need of upkeep. Landscaping is sparse. The fencing is in need of repair. Extraneous signage needs to be removed. It looks like trash is being stored behind the fenced enclosure of what used to be the trash enclosure and is now that remediation area. The statement of facts states that there are no changes requested, but that doesn't look like that based on a comparison between the site and the approved plan. The landscaping that was previously approved is not as shown on the plans. The enclosure is much bigger than approved. There's no discussion at all about the remediation equipment and why it's there and for how long it's there. It states that there are 10 parking spaces when there were 11 shown on the approved plans, reduced because of the size of that enclosure for the remediation, but there's no discussion that therefore it needs an amendment. Most of this is not mentioned in the compliance checklist, which is what you're supposed to be doing. Do I comply with the approved plans? Let me go through the list of what was approved and what the conditions were. Yes, no, 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 no. You should be listing those. There's a lot not in compliance. The lumen spread is extremely high along the property line that's shared with the residential building. The light pole, I note, is very tall, so I don't know how you could control the lumen spread. The landscaping that is adjacent to the residential building must be robust. There are some existing trees at that site, but I question whether or not they provide screening below the tree canopy. These are tall trees, so they would screen high, but not underneath the canopy. So you need to have some sort of screening like we've seen with staggered planting. We see it sometimes. There's a way of planting trees that, bushes that don't need as much sunlight or whatever. There's methods of approaching that. They need to provide better photos of the perimeter conditions. So for example, behind that fenced enclosure for the remediation and the trash, something's going on, but we can't see it. So they need to provide photos of that condition. We do have a fire department letter of no objection. And I think that covered all the comments. So I go to Commissioner Shanda.
Okay, so I was at the site yesterday and I looked through the site condition and I have a lot of comments on it. First of all, based on the photos provided and from the site visit and from the Google Street View, there are more vehicles parked on the site than shown on the plan. And specifically, if you look at the number of parking spaces that are shown in the drawings along the residential property line, there are 9 shown in the drawings, but they're actually double parked. So there's one set, there are 9 vehicles that are parked along the lot line, and there's another set of 9 that are parked right behind it. So there are more vehicles, and same thing goes for the number of parking spaces that are along the frontage of Northern Boulevard. Though in the drawing it shows there's 1 handicap parking spaces, there are 4 parked there with another set of 3 or so vehicles behind it. So there are a lot more vehicles parked on this site than shown in the drawing. And the vehicles that are parked along Northern Boulevard, they're blocking the westernmost curb cut along the Northern Boulevard. So my question is, do you even need that westernmost curb cut, since that is always through all the photos that has been provided by the applicant, through the Google Street View historic photos and from my site visit, it seems it's always blocked by 2 sets of vehicles back to back. So it's never going to be used. So why even have it? The paved asphalt area along Parsons Boulevard. If you look at the Google Street View map and the photographs, and I've taken some photographs and I'll share it with all the commissioners. I'll share it. I'll put it in the SharePoint photo for everybody to see.
All right, you need to send it to submit so it becomes a public
Okay,
document.
I'll do that. Okay, I will do that. So the paved asphalt area along Parsons Boulevard, it seems it is extending beyond the property line based on the existing plan. If you look at, I'm looking at the existing proposed site plan 001, Z001. You see the dashed line, which is the, which says concrete base vacuum station. Along that, there is that thick line, which is the property line. Then you see the planter is extended out along Northern Boulevard, and there's another set of line along, which is next to, which is kind of the extended asphalt pavement area, which is being used. If you look at the Google Street View maps, it is being used by the vehicles accessing the site. And when I went to the site, even today, with, this is unfortunately, it's an area where a lot of people wait for jobs and other things. So Parsons Boulevard is a very heavily trafficked pedestrian boulevard. So there are a lot of people walking down the street, and because of that asphalt pavement that extends into the city sidewalk, my first question is, did they get a permission from DOT to use that site for their purpose and asphalt it over? And if so, they need to provide that document. I would like, if not, then I would like a site survey to prove that that is part of their property. Because the sidewalk is extremely tight there. And this is a very, as I mentioned, it's a very heavily trafficked pedestrian sidewalk. So it is being compromised.
The site plan that they provided shows it's not part of their property, right? That
It
their
is not,
property
but if you look
line-
at the photograph, you
Mhm.
see the asphalt of the site has been extended over up to that line that is drawn on that's the lighter line that has been drawn, which extends all the way up to the planter that is
Mm.
located along Northern Boulevard. And when you go to the Google Street View maps, you will see that section of the asphalt is being used for vehicular maneuverability.
Mhm.
And so it prevents people from using that because visually it looks like it's not part of the sidewalk, and therefore people are not walking on the sidewalk. So it's kind of forcibly taking away a portion of the city sidewalk for city usage.
Mhm.
I have a concern with that, and I would like a clarification on that one.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, the lumen count is very high, and especially along the residential lot line. And these are residential, they're windows, and these are legal windows. So they need to be, we need to be very careful of that. The landscaping is extremely poor condition. It's not at all thick. The plants along Parsons Boulevard, they're in poor condition. It needs to be a lot denser, especially along the property line. Along the rear lot line towards the corner, there's a lot of debris, there's a lot of garbage that is stored there that needs to be removed. There were tires that were stored along the rear behind the one-story building. That's the wind, sorry. The planter at the corner of Northern Boulevard and Parsons extends beyond the property line. I would like to know the reason for that. Because there are people who wait at that corner for bus and for intersection, and they end up waiting on the planter. So it's really kind of conflicting with the pedestrian circulation. The vacuum and the air machines that are located along the sidewalk along Parsons Boulevard, I think it should be located either between the parking space 1 and 2 or next to or along the Northern Boulevard parking lot, because you're far away from the residential, you're more towards the commercial area.
You're talking, sorry, what are you saying? What should be located?
The air machine and the vacuum machine that are located right at the corner of Parsons Boulevard.
Yeah.
What we have noticed is when they are located right at the corner of the sidewalk, right on the sidewalk, sometimes vehicles end up parking on the sidewalk for utilizing the services. They should be more well within the property. So either they should be right next to park on lot 1 and 2, so that it forces a vehicle to go and park on 1 and 2.
But that's right next to the residential building.
That's the blank wall.
Oh, but
That section of the wall is, it's right up to the property lines. It doesn't have any windows. It's the yard of the residential that has a lot of the windows.
the 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Or move the air vac and machines along the parking spaces that are along Northern Boulevard. Then you're furthest away from the residential, and you can use that for your staging area for all the.
Basically next to number 10, because that's a handicap site.
Right.
Next
right.
door, next to 10.
Yeah,
10.
yeah.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, there are more number of vehicles parked there. I don't know if they're parked for parking or if it's being used as a private parking lot. I'm not sure. Applicant needs to clarify that. Or if it's these vehicles waiting for repairs. It wasn't clear when I went to the site if there's any repair was going on. I guess Sunday it's closed, so I wasn't clear. They need to provide operational plan of the site, especially with regards to the auto service and how these parking spaces are being used. They need to justify the reason for the remediation shed that is there. The photos that are provided dated 3/13/2020, they show it shows an ATM machine and merchandises located along the ADA ramp. They need to be relocated. Need to dimension the ADA ramp in the plan. The wheel stops are dislodged. Those need to be placed back properly. The parking spaces need to be restriped. The banners, excessive banners, as you pointed out, and they need to also confirm the actual width of the southernmost curb cut along Parsons Boulevard. I think it's much wider than 35 feet, and it's located well within 25 feet of the south lot line, southern lot line.
Sorry, what is it that's 25 feet from the southern
The
lot?
southernmost curb cut along Parsons Boulevard, that is the one furthest away from the intersection of Northern Boulevard.
Yeah,
I think it is more than 35 feet wide
oh, okay.
because it is located well within 25 feet of the southern lot line.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's verify the widths of the curb cuts in field, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they are proposing to change it, then they need to amend it.
And there's an ATM machine that is located in, basically you access from outside the building, or it's a freestanding ATM machine?
It's a freestanding ATM machine, and we typically see a freestanding ATM machine and some of those accessory merchandises. They are right next to where the ramp is from the ADA
Okay.
parking area.
So it's blocking the ramp?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my biggest concern is that paved asphalted area, and what is it being used for, and who gave them the permission?
Well, the thing is, since the shop owner, the retailer, is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk, right? What's very likely happens is the rule is you have to maintain the sidewalk. There's probably an instruction somewhere that says what it needs to be made out of, but then people maintain it how they maintain it. So when they were redoing their own asphalt, they just continued it out into the street, hence the confusion, because it's two different materials, right? That's I'm guessing kind of the reality, but it's true that the sort of the semiotic of what we look at, we see concrete is where it's public and asphalt is private property. And so we don't want to trespass kind of, or we interpret it that way. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Very interesting. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I agree with the previous comments about the lighting being high at the residential lot line and about the landscaping needing to be spruced up. I think that the signage analysis form has to be reconciled with the statement, because the signage analysis form says there's 30 square feet, 39 square feet of illuminated signage. Actually, the plan said there's 39 square feet of illuminated signage. The statement says there's 30 square feet of illuminated signage, and the analysis plan says there's 25.8 square feet of illuminated signage on Parsons Boulevard. My big question has to do with the amount of cars that are on this site, which also Vice Chair Shanda observed, and to make sure that there's no car rental at this site, because that was a previous problem when this case came before the board before, and the board requested that the car rental activity be ceased. So I'm just concerned that it's back in practice here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to repeat what was said, but I'll focus on three things. Number one, the community board. I did read through the comments from the community board. I understand that 35 approved, just one abstention. But in their comments, they talked about some sort of, I would describe as conditions. They said no discrimination against debit card user, install charge for electric vehicles, allow free use of air pump for the community. So I'm not sure if we have the power to impose conditions like these. I doubt actually,
No.
but this is one thing. So I just wanted to put it in the record that we did read through these and we're kind of responding to not just the community board, but to the community as well.
Hmm.
We don't have the power to force the applicant to go with that. It should be some sort of another power to, if this is imposable actually, to impose these kind of conditions. This is
These
one
kinds,
thing.
yeah, these kinds of things are often requested by the community boards, you know, fair share and employment opportunities and, you know, accessibility for the elderly, things like that. They often request that kind of thing. That's not something in our domain. We can move the air pump, but we can't say how you charge for it or don't
Yep,
charge for
yep,
it, right?
Yep. Just wanted to put it on the record.
Okay.
The other thing is, I go like very quickly over the lighting. If you want to fix the lighting of this site, and this is an advice, it's not a recommendation, you will need to play with the locations of the two light poles at the southern section of this site. This lighting system is not just shedding light at the property line. No, it's actually shedding enormous luminous spreads inside the adjacent property in the yard. The way to fix this is to move that light pole that's in I would say it's in the middle of that yard, but it's located on the property line. So if you want to fix it, I would advise the applicant to take two poles, put them, number one, as close as possible to the property line. Number two, as far as possible from the corners of the yard. So you're gonna shed light to your side, but you're gonna use the adjacent building as a shield, as a natural shield to avoid light shedding into the adjacent property / the yard. So
You're breaking up a lot. I'm not sure what is my internet, not yours. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
should I
you were
repeat
breaking
what I
up.
said?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying if you want to fix the lighting of this property, I would suggest / advise, not recommendation, that the two light poles at the southern section of the site be relocated to as close as possible to the adjacent building, to the adjacent 5 or 6 story building. And as far as possible, as far away as possible from the corners of the yard on the property line. Doing that would utilize the adjacent building to be used as a natural shield and prevent light from shedding into that property, that adjacent property. So
You're talking about moving them to where it's a blank wall and not where the court,
exactly,
the
yes,
courtyard is, right?
And in the meantime, as far as possible from the yard limit.
Mm-hmm.
If you can put them one very close to the eastern corner and one other corner, do that. If not, you can make them closer a little bit to use them more efficiently, but they should be close to the wall of the adjacent building. So the building itself is used as a shield.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one thing. The issue that concerns me is actually the noise. The number of cars, or actually the entire parking at this property is focused on this southern portion, not southern actually, eastern portion of the property. So if all these cars are parking there, or even after they fix the parking, 10 cars or 8 cars are parking there, I believe my issue because there are legal windows so close from that parking spot. So I believe this need to be looked at. If I'm not sure how they could prove it to us, but probably they can measure sound infiltration into the other property. I don't know, but I'm concerned about if I have an apartment that's that close to that parking spots, these parking spots. I don't know how I'm gonna be feeling about that. It's very close.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Mhm.
what else? Yeah, that the remediation shed is actually like spoke about by you and Commissioner Shanda, so I'm not gonna repeat it, but they mentioned in their statement of facts that they put the shed based on directions from the DEC. We would like to get the story, not just portion of it. So what's going on, why it's needed, when it was utilized, how long it's gonna be used for.
Correct. Okay. Anything else?
Yep, no, thank you.
That's it? Okay. And Commissioner Shivetta. Sorry, there we go.
I have many of the same notes as the commissioners who spoke before me. I want to thank Commissioner Sheta for mentioning the way the cars are actually parking against those windows that are alongside the residential lot line. I'm not sure if they were actually noticed. Each of these apartments could be noticed to see what their insight is as to the lighting issue or the sound issue. But I think that the applicant has to put some care into addressing the lighting, the quality of life concerns that the court has expressed on that residential lot line.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea, that for the next hearing, we could have them notice immediate neighbors.
It would be great to see,
Okay.
especially on that lot line, because I believe what Commissioner Shanda stated earlier, those are legal windows. Those are necessary for light and air.
Mhm.
And, you know, if there's a way to make it more bearable, we should do that.
Mhm. Okay, great, thank you. And I see Commissioner Sheta has his hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, for that. I forgot to mention two things. Number one, there is a wall. I believe it's on Northern Boulevard that need to be painted. It's in their picture that they submitted to us. I believe it's on picture 2 and 3. This will need to be painted. And the other thing, if you look at one of the pictures as well, my computer is giving me a hard time. 1 second.
I think that wall, though, belongs to the neighbor, right? It's the wall of the adjacent building, so you can make a deal with your neighbor, but it's not your wall to paint, right?
I see.
You
Okay.
can offer it, you can say, hey, I'd love to paint your wall, but it's not your wall.
It will be nice if it's painted,
Yes.
actually.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is that the car stops at the parking. I did look at one of the pictures and I did look through the Google view, and I see that some car stops are actually dislocated. They are like loose, twisted, and dislocated. So I would suggest that they fix these as soon as possible, just in case if one of the cars is parking and the guy is not focusing, he would hit without these car stops. He would actually hit the wall of the adjacent building. So that's dangerous because I see the cars are like parked very close to the building. So this is something that actually could be critical to safety. So if we can fix that, we'll put it as a priority.
Sorry, what's twisted? What's twisted?
The wheel stops.
The
Oh, the
wheel
wheel
stops for the
stop.
cars.
Oh, yeah, well, they're just kind of haphazardly scattered. They're not, they look like they just dropped them down and they moved around as cars hit them, so they need to be placed better.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and Commissioner Shanta has her hand up.
Yeah, I was just looking through the photos again, and I think one of the photos, this is photo number 6, view number 6, which kind of shows the site dimension, the yellow line goes all the way to the asphalt, which kind of tells the way they think legally,
Yeah.
whether they're a, so.
Well, it's the way they think and it's what's evident. The asphalt is mine and the concrete is the city's. That's just what the symbol that everybody is reading, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's a fact,
Right.
right? Interesting. Okay. Okay. Wow. It's actually quite a big area.
Yes.
If you look at where I think that might be where the pumps are. You see
Right.
there's sort of these rectangles that indicate the tops of.
Those are that's where the air pump and the air vac is.
No, not that. There are rectangles in the asphalt that have little, not manhole covers exactly, but utility covers, right? That run along that asphalt area
Oh.
that seem to extend, maybe my view isn't really good, but they seem to extend beyond the property line. Maybe it's not true. I don't know. It's hard to see whether those are patches or covers for utilities that are actually private utilities, you know?
I believe they are. I believe they are utility coverage, and it might be gas lines actually.
Right. You see a bunch of them actually, right? Oh, actually, now if you look at view number 9, there are circular covers that go all the way out to the planter line. And that's access to the gas tanks or something that's off private property. So I'm not even sure how they did that. I don't know what those things are and whether it shows it on the plans. No, they don't show what they are on the plans. Okay, there's the question. Okay, any other comments about this application? No? Okay, let's move on.
Item number 4, 5106BZ, 18802 Union Turnpike, Queens.
Okay, we have proof of service of initial application and of notice of hearing to officials. We're still in review session, so please do not call in. Community board waived its recommendation. We have fire department letter of no objection. There is a TCO, so I'd like to understand what's holding up issuance of the final. There is also a PA permit, a public assembly permit, which was required. We should note the request to extend the hours. This is a note to council to extend the hours from on Monday to Thursday to 12 a.m. from 11 p.m. And this is a request to extend the term of the variance for another 10 years. We impose a term because this is a variance, because it is functioning as if a PCE special permit. Then the statement of fact should go through the findings to establish that there have been no changes in conditions that would obviate the need for the variance. You really do need to treat this like a variance. It's not a PCE special permit, right? I'm also a bit confused about the previously approved 2015 drawings that only show the dance studio as the subject of the variance at the cellar and first floors versus the proposed plans that show both dance studio and gym as a subject. I remember this application when it came the last time, but I don't know why it would, and I remember there was an argument about the dance studio needing to be able to go into the cellar or something like that, but I don't know why it only showed the dance studio on the the affected area, and now it's showing both uses as the affected area. So they need to clarify that. Okay, so Commissioner Shanda.
Yes, I had similar confusion with regards to whether this is for one PCE or for two PCEs, that is a dance studio and the PCE that is in the mid block, or is it just for the PCE? So that needs to be clarified. If the dance studio is part of this application, because it wasn't clear from the statement of facts and all the documents, some of my comments are with regards to the dance studio. Dance studio has, per statement of fact, has signage I think the signage analysis, I don't have the note clearly on that one, but shows that it has 36 square foot of signage. The drawings show 36 square foot of signage along the Union Turnpike frontage. However, there are too many banners posted on the windows, and I think it exceeds the 150 square feet. There's also a big awning along the, I think 189th Street frontage. I would like to know whether we had given an approval on that or DOB had accepted that. There's a fire staircase that exits from the cellar along the 89th Street, and the fence around that needs repair. And based on the Google Street View, the space that is in the rear of the dance studio, it is being used for all kinds of storage. And I don't think related to dance studio. So I don't know if the dance studio has lease on that space, are they using it? But it isn't, so that needs to be clarified also.
So in other words, is the PCE in the cellar for the dance studio, including that storage area or not?
So on the ground floor, so the dance studio is using the ground floor and portion of the cellar. Now on the ground floor, in the rear, there is an open space fronting 189th Street. And from the Google Street View, it seems that there's a lot of unnecessary material that is out there that is not at all related to any of the uses in this commercial storefront. So what I wanted to know, is that space is being leased by dance studio, and are they responsible for maintaining it?
Okay.
And if not, with regards to the statement of facts, as you mentioned, it's confusing. Is it an extension of term for the PC or for the both dance studios? And the statement needs to describe both of them, and needs to describe the current operation of the dance studio, and if it is in compliance, and also need to provide continuity of the dance studio. And the chart in the statement of fact shows that the PCE occupies 2 separate spaces on the first floor. PCE occupying 2,002 square foot on the first floor, plus 1,072 square foot. But it doesn't refer to the cellar space. There's a chart in the statement of fact. It refers to 2 separate spaces on the first floor for the PC, but does not refer to the cellar space. So that also needs to be clarified.
Okay. You mentioned something about the proof of continuous use of the dance studio. Did you say that?
Yeah.
So we have this very odd affectation in our rules that there's no requirement for proof of continuous use or substantial prejudice for extensions of terms on variances if they're filed more than 2 years but less than 10 years after expiration.
Okay.
I don't really understand that, but they're following the rules by not providing it. So we could ask, we could ask, but it's not a requirement of the rules.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. To the cellar space. Okay. All right, Commissioner Otley Brown. Wait. Sorry, don't go. I can't unmute there.
I agree that the cellar PCE square footage is not in the statement. I believe it is 8,648.81 square feet. The dance school, if it's included in this application, doesn't appear to have ADA access to the cellar. So the question is, does it utilize the PCE's elevator in order to get to the cellar, or do they have some kind of an exception because it's, I don't know, a pre-61 building or something? And they didn't state the fire safety equipment or systems that are in the PCE. That's it.
Okay. And Commissioner, Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you. It says you were muted and then unmuted.
No.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further. The only the only comment I had and highlighted was about the continuous use, and you clarified about it. Other
Mhm.
than that, I have nothing else.
Okay. And Commissioner Shabeta trying, there we go. I think.
Yeah.
Kirk-
Nothing further from me here.
All right.
Okay. This concludes the public review session for May 4th, 10 a.m. I'm sorry, 2 p.m. Sorry. We will now commence with the public hearing for May 4th, 2020, 2 p.m. So please only call in when your case is announced. The first item, 55137BZ, 23302 Northern Boulevard, Queens, and the applicant is the Office of Eric Palatnik. Is she in?
No, I don't see.
She was just there. Oh, there she is. Speaker.
Oh, there she is. Okay. And don't forget to turn off your video.
I don't hear you. Elise, speak.
She's
Oh, you
connecting
gotta
to
connect
audio.
to- okay.
Just a second.
There you are.
You turn off your YouTube?
Yes,
Okay.
Please state your
Raise
name.
your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and respond honestly to board member questions?
I do. Thank you. So we heard your comments.
State your name, please, for the record.
Elise
Sorry.
Adair from Eric Palatnik, PC. So we heard your comments, and to clarify, we will reformat the entire statement of facts, and we will provide a compliance chart with photographs showing each condition from the previous approval and how it complies now. When we originally filed this, we wanted to make sure we were on time, but he wasn't yet finished with all of the improvements. And the previous red site, 23302, I think, or is that which one we're on?
20.
The red site, the more interior site, that one does not have a tenant in it currently. There is nobody there, just to clarify that. And this is that for an extension of a term application, not an amendment. There's no amendment. We're just rehashing what happened before, but we'll clarify that in the statement, and we will clarify that in the plans, remove any conditions from the previous approval on the plans, and put a new title block on the plans that shows the current date. So there's no confusion.
Okay.
This is a separate zoning lot because it's always been a separate zoning lot, and the tenants on both properties are totally separate tenants operating totally separate businesses. And we can clarify that more in the statement of facts.
So, yeah, so this is what you said before. So first of all, it's more than just those little corrections that you listed. You need to go back through this whole application, and it's a do-over, right? Because it's really bad. So, and I never say that to you. It's very rare that we have applications that come through you that are so badly prepared, but this is one of them. And so you need to it's a do-over, right? So, but with respect to them being unrelated, we know that, and it says in the materials, and you just look on the drawing, that the drive area is being shared with the adjacent property. You drive into this property and then you drive into the open doors of the adjacent property. So it's not true that they're not related to each other. They're completely depending on, the neighbor is completely depending on this one in order to get inside of their garage.
I think that may be untrue, but I would like to clarify that in our statement for the next submission, because we're doing a whole redo as it is. But I know for a fact that the one on the corner is operated by a tenant, and Reds has been kicked out, and there's currently no tenant in there, and they have to replace it with a new tenant.
Okay. Okay, so.
But the driveway specifically, we can address in the new statement of facts.
Okay, and Commissioner Shanda has her hand up.
As I recall, that was one of our biggest concerns at the last hearing. And if you look at, and this is where I think the difficulty happens, because we have two separate while from DOB's point of view, these are two separate zoning lots. So, okay, assuming that we treat them separately, we do have to refer to the drawing from the application of 33474. And there, if you look at Z101, we had asked at the last hearing, how do the vehicles go to that rear portion of the corner lot? And it goes through the service building.
Yes.
And it does not go through, and this was to make sure that no vehicles will go through the interior lot through the gate, and that it had to be a solid fence. So we also need those proofs through your photographs and others to indicate that this site is a completely standalone site with no physical connection of accessibility to the abutting site. Otherwise, you're kind of disproving your justification.
Right.
You're not proving your justification. I'm sorry. That's what I'm.
But I think in this last submission, now maybe it was incorrect because there's so many things that are incorrect on the submission, but it was still describing the reason for the parking area that's kind of on the left side of the building on this site, that it's being kept clear so that you can get cars moving into, you can get cars to move into that area. So there's no parking there, right? But there are no doors, there are no garage doors in the building, the subject building on this lot. They're people doors. So no car could ever drive in there unless they create garage doors. So that belies the statement. And that's why
I also think, like I said, when we originally filed this, we wanted to make sure we got it on time because he was in the middle of improvements and we didn't want to show the board that we neglected the fact that we were supposed to come back in a year with improvements, but he was finishing them. So I think that things have to be rewritten to show what he's done as of now, because when I really haven't rewritten the statement of facts since the original filing.
August, right.
It's many.
I have to say, this is where I kind of am not in agreement with it. I understand you may not have up-to-date photographs because the work is in progress.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the statement of fact should state something completely different from what we had approved back in 2018.
Okay.
And there are a lot of inconsistencies in the statement of fact,
And
which has nothing to do with the work in progress.
Understood, but I'm saying we just wanted to get it on time, and I will do a whole new reformatting of the statement of facts with compliance and photographs that match each of the compliance options.
Okay.
And new plans, totally new plans. He actually got a new architect for this new application, so it'll be new signature and all of the previous resolution you kept mentioning. There was a previous resolution on plans that will be removed.
Okay. Okay, but so here you are in May, and the submission was in August, and you know you're being calendared to be heard in May, right? The idea that you're waiting for someone on the BSA to say to you that your application is out of date or incorrect or incomplete isn't right. You need to say, I'm about to be heard on this application. I'm calendared, because now you're calendared, right? That means I should go back and look at the application and see whether what the board is going to be reading is up to date, because not only do you have 5 commissioners reviewing this, you have our general counsel or our deputy counsel reviewing this application. You have our project manager reviewing this application. You have a minimum of 7 people reviewing incorrect materials. You know what a waste of time that is? You know how much time I spent trying to figure this out, and I assume other commissioners did too. It's not acceptable. You need, and that's why we say it's insulting, because you're using up our time to review something that has no business being here. Okay, so
I apologize for any confusion or inconsistencies. We're just trying to rehash what had happened in the last hearing, but we'll reformat everything going forward and hope that will clarify everything.
Okay. Any other comments from the other commissioners? No. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next.
Any speakers?
Oh, are there any speakers on this one?
Just in case, case John wanted, Mr. Euler.
Yeah, good point. So if there's speakers on this application, this is 230 Sorry, let me just get the number.
55137BZ, 23302 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
Right, so if you want to speak on this application, please call 646-558-8656. And the ID number is 971-6211-6172.
Don't see anybody, right?
No, okay, and there's still time for somebody to call in on the second one. Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
Item number 2-33478BZ, 233-20 Northern Boulevard, Queens. So
I
Lisa,
guess-
let me swear you in. Yeah. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do. Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. Similar to the last one, we will get the plans redone and we will do a compliance chart, history and everything with pictures showing compliance with the previous resolutions. I forgot to say on the last one that the reason for the similar comments, it was asked why the board had the same comments for both applications. The board, when we met with the community board, was really, really concerned with parking on the sidewalk. And that came up for just generally as a big problem. So that's, I mean, what I remember happening. So I believe they put in conditions that specifically wanted to make sure that was addressed. And they were really concerned about Alley Pond Park not being, there being a problem and make sure there's access to Alley Pond Park behind the site. So those were the two issues that came up when I was at the community board.
Oh, can I, Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this the case that, oh no, maybe it might have been Sandy's case, I'm sorry, about the runoff into Alley Pond Park? Is that what the DEC thing is? Or maybe it's Sandy's, maybe it's Sandy's. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
I know there was an issue about the runoff into Alley Pond Park or something.
This might have been the one, but I don't
I think
remember.
this was the one.
This was the one that had barrels that were removed, and we showed you how the barrels were removed last time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But not the one that was about the fencing that was visible from inside the park, was it?
I don't.
Yeah, that's the one I think it is. Because
Maybe
the one,
that was an
the
issue
one
too.
with runoff had an alley next to it.
All
Yeah,
right, well.
not sure. Anyway, this is a Mr. Euler conversation, but I don't remember. There's no mention in the resolution. Commissioner Sheta, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I believe the one you're talking about, the one with the flow to the alley pond, that was a variance, and I believe it was an enlargement to a restaurant or something like that. But it was
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, Ted is
and
agreeing.
I believe they
Yeah.
ended up withdrawing at the end of the day.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But for this one, since we're talking about the flow to the alley pond, I was actually looking at the aerials, and I see that the topo on Northern Boulevard is kind of changing. If we're coming from west to east, it's going uphill, I believe. Is there any drainage issues? Can you check on that, Elise, if there are any drainage issues for these two properties or even the property west of them? Because I see some elevation difference between the property that's subject of the previous case and the one to the west. So I'm a little bit concerned about any runoff issues here, like after heavy rain, could it be some issues with sedimentation coming from the adjacent green area, the woods, to the subject property, or even from the subject property to the one to the west? Can just look into that and put a brief statement in the statement of fact next submission.
Okay. We'll
Mentioning
ask
that.
Eric to connect.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners? Okay, anything else, Ms. Fullader? Okay. So we need you to be very careful with this one, okay? Yes, so for
Any speakers?
anybody who wants to call in to speak on this, this is, sorry.
33478BZ, 23320 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
Right, so if you would like to call in, please call 646-558-8656. And the passcode is 971-6211-6172. So let's.
That's the meeting ID.
Yeah,
Don't see anybody.
no, it takes 30 seconds for people to hear what I just said. So give it a second more. Okay, so we will then set this on for continued, but I'm going to give you a lot of time to improve the application.
May I request just because the client hasn't been able to put Red's a tenant in and he has a loan, I can, since most of the work's on me, can we do not a super long, but something a little less? I'm just saying I can, if you give me like a month, I can fix everything. It's no problem. Rather than giving me like 6 months.
Let's put it this way. We have a really packed calendar. The application was really poorly done. We already postponed this once, because of improper service. So this was originally scheduled to be heard in April and we postponed it because service was delayed. So, it's not
I would
the
like to
board's
say,
job to manage your application.
understood, but service was delayed because we couldn't get into the office, because that's why we did an affidavit because of Corona.
No, sorry. Your job when you make service is to get a copy to us, not to wait for us to ask for a copy a week before the hearing.
Understood.
So that's part of the problem is you can't wait for us to give you instructions about how to manage your cases. You need to manage your cases. So we'll put you on for when we have time on the calendar and we can't do any better than that. Okay.
That is totally understood. I'm just saying, rather than giving me 6 months, I can get it.
Well, nobody's getting 6 months, so let's not exaggerate.
Okay, I've asked for that before, so I'm just
Okay.
making.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, thank you for calling in. Next case
Is me.
Calendar number 3, 7204BZ, 14154 Northern Boulevard, Queens. Elise, you're still there?
Yep.
Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and respond honestly to board member question?
I do. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. I guess I will generally go through all of your comments just to make sure that I have them, because there was a lot of various things. But firstly, I'd like to say that this doesn't intend on being a work application. They are in the middle of remediation, but they intend on putting the parking spots and everything back to what it was when the remediation is completed. But I can get more information about the remediation when we have more than 10 minutes to come back to you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's the intention. Lumen spread, there was a long discussion about lighting. We will look into reducing lighting and provide a new lumen spread diagram. And landscaping, we heard that the landscaping is dying. We'll look into landscaping. I believe that Commissioner Chanda talked about a planter with people in the front of it, and I wanted to clarify that comment.
Yeah.
It's based on various Google Street views and also from the photos that you have provided, let's say view number 1. It's the planter that is located right at the corner of Parsons Boulevard and Northern Boulevard. By the way, the photograph has the names of the streets incorrect.
Okay. Thank you.
And there you see people are sitting on the planter bed. I suspect this is an area where a lot of day laborers are waiting to be picked up, and they wait here. And they, but apart from that, Parsons Boulevard and Northern Boulevard at this intersection is an extremely busy pedestrian intersection. So my reason for saying that this planter extending into the sidewalk, it's taking away from pedestrians' movement and pedestrian
should we
refuge
remove
area.
it, is what you're saying? That's what I'm trying to clarify. And put more
Yes,
landscaping and other.
yeah, it should be removed. unless
Okay,
you want to enhance it with street benches and others to sit on to make it. But I think, first of all, if it's not on your property line, why are you even using it?
okay, understood. Thank you. We're going to talk to the owner additionally about the double parking discussed, restripe the parking spaces. You asked about.
So I want to go back to the double parking. So for
Okay.
example, based on your drawings, you only show one parking space along the Northern Boulevard frontage. Right now, the reality of usage of these parking spaces, you have basically 6 vehicles parked there. And if you can operate that way, and given the concerns you have heard from the commissioners, maybe take away some of the parking spaces from the residential property line and put 6 of those parking spaces along the Northern Boulevard and minimize the conflict of vehicles parked right next to the residential parking spaces.
Okay, we'll look into that.
What I'd like to suggest with respect to that is, because everyone is so concerned about that one poor residential building that's taking the brunt of basically the whole site, to build up the landscaping there to be much deeper, because there is room to pull the parking spaces back. If you eliminate them, even better, but there's room to pull the parking spaces back and deepen the planting area. For instance, we saw in a prior application, Commissioner Otley Brown noted that where there was there were 2 layers of planting. So you had tall trees and then a space in front where there were lower bushes. And what that does is it creates a really kind of great buffer area. And I think in this situation, regulating, in fact, the parking seems to be quite difficult at this site. And one way to do it is always architecturally. So you pull the parking spaces back with landscaping.
Okay. Understood. Thank you. We're going to look into the asphalt that was discussed. It was extended beyond the property line, and you suggested potentially a survey. We will ask the owner about that and respond accordingly. I guess the parking issue that we just discussed also entails the curb cut issue, is kind of hand in hand. Because you said, is the westerly curb cut, do we need it? You also said to dimension the ADA, right? Wheel stops, we will fix the wheel stops, southern curb. There was something about the ATM machine. I don't remember the.
In the ramp.
It blocks the handicap ramp.
It blocks, okay.
Yeah.
We can look into whether the wall on Northern Boulevard is ours. If it's ours, we can paint it, but if it's not ours, I don't think it is.
No, it's the wall of the adjacent property. It's mostly going to the next door neighbor and saying, hey, can I paint your wall? It's more like that. And if the neighbor says no way, then that's the answer, because it's their wall.
At the community board, when we did a land use meeting and then we did a full board meeting, and at the land use meeting, we had a frank discussion about things that people come to the site for. And people talked a lot about needing air pumps and that kind of thing at the site. And I said to them that sometimes the board asks that we remove those things. So if you want to maintain those things as part of this approval, please write that as a condition in the resolution. So that was the intent of that, is just they want to keep those pumps because the community really uses those at this site.
Right.
So
But-
that was the point of that.
But this is more about moving the pumps so they're not an additional annoyance for the residents, right?
We can move them, but they request that we have them somewhere on this site.
Right. So the suggestion was to put them adjacent to spot number 10, which is the handicap site. So
Yeah.
adjacent to that site. And Commissioner Shando has her hand up again. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to refer to the photo number 7 as part of the additional photograph submission, which shows where the ATM machine and all the merchandises are that is blocking the ramp.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll look into signage, as Commissioner Brown said to do, and make sure that all banners have been removed. Sometimes you ask for them to be removed and they keep putting them back. We'll tell them no banners. I think that's all the comments, but if I missed anything.
Notification to, do you still want notification to neighbors?
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
it's a great opportunity to, photo number 7, sorry, I just, are we talking about what was submitted, the photos submitted on 10/21/19?
This is dated, Madam Chair, this is dated 3/13/2020, additional photographs.
Okay.
And there are a total of 7 photographs. So if you look at photo number 6, actually, is it? No, it's even 2. 2 of 7. 2 of 7. 6 of 7 and 7 of 7.
Wait a minute. In the general application folder,
In the general application folder, it is the one that's dated 2020-03-13, additional photographs.
oh, I see. Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, so I see. Thank you. Oh, I see. The ATM machine is in the front of the building. It's not on the side of the building. So if you're just trying to go up the corner, it's
Right.
on the front. So you can actually get past it with a wheelchair to the, actually, you can't get past any of it because there's also sale of some kind of, lubricant and stuff like that that you pour, right? There's no way that's an accessible
Okay.
route.
We'll tell them to also ensure that nothing is being sold outside.
Right, okay. And, or they can move it to the other side, but again, we often say nothing sold outside, so it's for consistency's sake. I'm recognizing Commissioner Otley Brown.
Yes, just remember to verify that there's no car rental at this site.
Oh, yeah, verify. No car rental. Okay.
And Commissioner Shabeta, if I can get this to work.
I was hoping we could provide the applicant with a notice to send to the residents, because I'm not sure if we have done notice for these particular hearings for residents who are living nearby.
We have done some, but we'll provide it because we also want to be able to give them the call-in number.
Right.
And even if unlikely, by the time we come back on this, there is a public in-person hearing, we'll continue to operate the Zoom video simultaneously, even though it's probably unlikely that we'll be in person for a long time. So, okay. So yeah, so we'll provide you with a notice to neighbors so that they can participate online.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
The commissioner is raising her hand.
Oh, you can see, I'm sorry, I'm typing and I can't see everything.
Commissioner Chanda.
Sorry, thank you. I just noticed that there is the tree pit, empty tree pit along Parsons Boulevard. Can you reach out to Parks Department for street parking? For the tree parking? Tree planting, I'm sorry. What's
Tree
going on?
planting, yes.
Tree planting, not tree parking, tree planting.
Okay, tree planting, yes.
Can you say that one more time? Because I don't know what you just said.
It's the medication. No, there is an empty tree pit along Parsons Boulevard. So I requested the applicant to reach out to Parks Department for street tree planting.
Okay. So you at least, you know what, provide us with proof that you requested a tree. Because I know that all of that has been, I don't know if that's suspended, but let's just say they're not taking any more official, they're not processing more official requests, but if you request it, at least it's in the pipeline, okay?
Also, I'm not sure where construction and landscaping and what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do, but would you like to see a set of proposed plans first because of the situation? And
Yes,
then for
absolutely, yeah, okay. Right, you're not going to, for one, you're not going to be allowed probably to do construction for a while, but we're not really sure. Maybe they will open up that up sooner. But we do need to see because we're looking at enlarging the landscaping area, I would say at least twice. So at least to a 8 to 10 foot depth along the residential property line so that you get adequate width for the trees that are already there, it looks like. And then also a row of bushes in front that are bushy, but don't go as high as the trees. Okay. And Commissioner Shabeta, do you still have your hand up or? Whoops, sorry, I'm unmuting you to. There we go.
I will promptly put my hand down.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. So let's see if there's anyone who would like to speak on this item.
7204 BZ, 14154 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
So if you'd like to speak on the item, the phone number is 646-558-8656. And the password is 971-6211.
Meeting ID.
It's 971-6211-6172 #. Okay, so, and on this one, because we're going to do a notice to neighbors, just to alert council to please provide a form of notice to neighbors. And we'll set the continued hearing date, and then you can send out the notice to the applicant, okay? All right,
Okay.
we can move on to the next one.
Item number 4, 5106 BZ, 18802 Union Turnpike, Queens. It's the office of Sheldon LaBelle.
Okay.
Please call in.
Okay, we have.
It's Amanda Ionati.
There she is.
Hey.
So,
Okay, raise your right hand. Hi, do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Okay, please state your name.
Amanda Ionati on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, proceed.
I heard the board's comments at today's review session. To begin, I think I'll clarify about the ask between the dance studio and the PCEU. Sorry if there's any confusion. It actually is an extension of term request for both uses, the dance studio and the PCE, dance studio being the use group 9 use, and the PCE. Both were allowed pursuant to variance in 2006. I was similarly a little confused about the term relating to both of them. But when I reviewed the 2006 resolution in the, just pulling it up, in the resolved paragraph, it says that the variance was to permit the dance studio as well as the PCE on further condition that both are placed on the 10-year term. So the ask is for an extension of term of both of them. So it ran from 2006 to 2016. The reason that the prior approved plans filed with this application only show the dance studio is because the action, one second. The action in 2015 was a bit of an intervening action where the dance studio asked for an amendment to expand into the adjacent vacant storefront. So that's why that plan set only shows the dance studio. TCOs, so there was violations that the building was working through while TCOs were being continually issued. By the time they were ready to get a final CO, the building department flagged that the term was actually expired. So they'll be ready to get a final CO as soon as this action extends the terms.
Okay.
Dance signage, I'm gonna have to review with the architect on those calculations. And if banners and extra signage need to be removed, we'll do so and submit photos. Noted the PCE cellar square footage was not included in the statement of facts. I will add that. I will also confirm with the architect about ADA access for the dance school. And then there was a comment about storage space related to the dance school, and I didn't quite follow about where that was. If we could go over that on the street view.
That was Commissioner Shanda. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the photographs. I think it's photo number. It's along 189th Street. The dance studio has a rear, as per the existing plan. There's a roof, the drawing says, roof of the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like it's open to the sky. And when I looked at the street view, Google Street View, I noticed there's a lot of material that is stored there that is not dance related. It seems like there were like auto parts, all kinds of other things that were stored there.
Okay.
So what I want to make sure is that roof of the cellar space, as indicated in the drawing, is that being used by the dance studio? Do they have the right to access it? Maybe they don't have it's not part of the lease term. Maybe it belongs to the owner. My question, therefore, is unfortunately moot because they don't have any claim over that space. But if they do, they need to maintain it.
Right. So,
Okay.
I just want to point out, thank you, Commissioner Shanda, the floor plan, the first floor plan of the dance school shows that actually there is a door. You go up 2 steps or 3 steps, and then there's a door, and then it takes you to the roof, that roof of cellar. And the drawings don't show anyone else with similar access. That may not be accurate, but it doesn't
Okay.
show anyone else, so.
I will clarify with the applicant who in fact is using that space.
Okay.
Okay, I think was that everything?
I think so, right? Anything else, anybody? Yeah. Okay,
You discussed the fire department stuff, right?
the fire department stuff.
Fire safety equipment?
Oh. We just, that should just be indicated on in the statement of factor on the drawings. We do have a sign off from fire department, but yeah, normally we do have a statement about the fire safety equipment, right?
Yep, I'll add that to the statement of facts.
Okay, great.
Okay, the fence on, is it 89th Avenue, 89th
Yeah.
Street needed to be
Yeah.
repaired? Was that mentioned? Okay.
Okay, you mean the fence from like the egress stairs?
Ye-
Oh, I see.
yeah.
I see on
Yeah.
Street View. I will point that out to the applicant.
Yeah, and it's photo number 13. Photo number 13, 14. And a similar question I had with
Got it.
regards to that awning.
And the signage, you talked
Yes.
about miscellaneous
Yeah.
signage.
Yes, I'm gonna have the architect go through all the signage compared with the photos and the signage they show on the plans and redo the calculations. And if anything needs to be removed, I can submit photos, and I'll submit photos of the repaired fence as well.
Great. Okay,
Okay.
Great. Anything else? Anything left out? Any of the commissioners want to add anything? Okay. So then I'd like to again invite anybody from the public who would like to call in. So again, this is case number 51-06BZ 188-02 Union Turnpike in Queens. And the dial-in number is 646-558-8656. And the code when they ask is 971-6211-6172 #. So just let's give it a 30 seconds. Okay. So I think that's the last one, right? For
Yep.
today?
Okay, so this, are we going to say done or you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this concludes the public hearing for May 4th, 2020, the 2 p.m. session.
And we'll assign, of course, the continued hearing dates shortly. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
you. Okay,
We'll-
see you tomorrow.
We'll resume tomorrow at 10 a.m. And the dial-in information is listed on our website, but yeah, listed on our website. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.